Buckle up, Buttercup. We're going for a ride. I'm going to try and recreate Ken Couture number 2 using fabric from Dollar Tree. So it won't be posh because I'm using cheap fabric also. Now, I do have an extra Ken Looks number 25 laying around on a Muse body, nevertheless. I could just remove all his hair and draw in some facial hair, but why do that to a $25 rooted hair doll when I could use a perfectly fully articulated bald doll that only costs $12 from Walmart? I would like to be the one to introduce you to fresh dolls. Do you want to truly support the idea of a black doll? Then look no further than getting a Fresh Squad doll from FreshDolls.com or your local Walmart. This doll is made by Dr. Lisa, a minority small business owner. The dolls come in much better clothing than a standard Ken. The $12 doll comes with a red sweatpants and a white t-shirt and white tennis shoes instead of shorts and a t-shirt. Did I mention he's fully articulated? He's articulated at the ankle, at the knee, at the thigh. He can do the side split. He's articulated at the wrist, elbow, and at the shoulder. He can tilt his head up and down and turn it side to side. Now, I might have mentioned that I don't like bald dolls. So, I flocked his face and his hair. However, I bought another one just for his body so that I could rebody the Naturalista male doll, which is only articulated at the elbow. So I will be recreating Ken Couture number 2 using this fresh doll on a Naturalista body. In the meantime, I want to express my ongoing frustration with this new Ken. My mom was a housewife, but on the side she had an in-home seamstress business. People would bring clothes to her to be hemmed or to be made based on pictures of outfits they saw someone else wearing. Because of this, I spent much of my youth in fabric stores, and it's why I can sew a bit now, though not great. More importantly, I can see material and guesstimate roughly how much that fabric costs per yard. This is why I have said a number of times that the Ken Couture number 1 doll's fabric clothing is worth $100 by itself. That's not just because I collect integrity dolls. The fabric quality of that suit is not cheap fabric. It is actually more complicated to tailor suits because they're lined than it is to do basic sewing. On top of that, the sewing is more intricate because it's done at such a small scale with tiny little sewing parts. Therefore, it's difficult for me to see the value in the Couture number 2 outfit. First and foremost, it's some sort of pseudo denim looking fabric. It looks a lot like standard cotton. It would be more impressive if this was a tie-dye silk or satin suit rather than this low quality fabric that they opted to use. It seems to be a shout out to the Project Runway season 18 episode 10 that aired in 2020, in which they were assigned to create a chic modern take on tie-dye. The problem is, if you don't do tie-dye well, it can come out really cheap looking. The gradient as it goes down the pant leg is not smooth, and there's a huge drip line going down the left leg. If the drip mark was going upwards, it might have looked like he got splashed by water, especially with the raincoat. That might have given it a different aesthetic because it might have been trying to have the appearance that he got splashed or stepped in a puddle, which might have been a cool take, but the whole suit just looks messy and gross. Am I supposed to be impressed by a plastic raincoat? It's just that I've seen Mattel do Barbie with a plastic raincoat a lot, usually for dolls that sell less than $30. So here's this bald Ken that you, Mattel, couldn't even spend the extra money to flock or root his hair, and he's wearing a tie-dye splash-dipped cotton pseudo-denim suit. To tie it all together, Mattel decided to give him open back croc tennis shoes. Wow. Just wow. I would even overlook that bald head and felt everything was potentially okay if Mattel put him in some wellies. And then maybe if part of the wellies was the same plastic material as the raincoat. That would have been cool. I might have bought the doll just for the rain boots. I don't understand how Mattel doesn't get what collectors want. Like, as a doll collector, I can make the stupidest excuses to convince myself why a doll is totally worth it. Like, ignoring the fact that you clearly saved money by not having to buy doll hair or flocking. Ignoring the fact that you clearly saved money by not putting him in an articulated body. One unique article of clothing done well will convert a collector. Even with his bald head, I would have bought him if he was articulated. Even with minimal articulation, I might have bought him with this unique face mold if he had rooted hair. But it depends on what his hair looks like. As he is, I might have bought him if the quality of the fabric was better and if the tie-dye job looked really good. As he is, I might have bought him if he had unique Ken rain boots on. As I've said before, I collect mostly black dolls. And I collect male dolls generally with rooted hair, though there are a few exceptions. So I am the primary target market for this Ken Couture doll. Do companies do market research anymore? I don't know what my exact response would have been if they asked me about this particular Ken doll, but I probably would have said, it's alright, but it depends on the price. I would have said I personally prefer my dolls to have rooted hair and articulation. The fact is, the higher the price tag, the pickier I'm going to be about the quality of the doll and the doll's clothing. If a licensed doll like LeBron with a unique body type that is fully articulated with a unique face mold, molded hair, molded facial hair, the same number of articles of clothes as this doll, and with more accessories provided than this doll, is $75, then this doll can never justify a $100 price tag. If a licensed doll like Doctor Who that is fully articulated with unique shoes and 3 articles of clothing and also has drawn on facial hair and a painted hair but is mostly bald is $55, then this doll with minimal articulation and more clothing pieces should be closer to $55 or less. Also, I just want to say that this doll was designed by Carlisle Noira. He is an in-house designer, which means you did not have to pay an outside designer fee for this doll. Is it me? It might just be me. But if I was Kid Super or Anna Sui, who are professional clothing designers, and I knew that my dolls had fully rooted hair and were fully articulated, and my designer fee was on top, where potentially I was getting some percentage of the doll sales, but you sold my dolls for less than $50, so that my profit is actually not that much, whereas Carlisle, who is not even a professional clothing designer, just a doll designer, is selling his doll for $100? Because Carlisle thinks his clothes are designed better than what Anna Sui and Kid Super designed? Is that what's going on? Because that's what I would be thinking. I low-key would be insulted. Because ultimately, isn't that what's on sale here? Is Carlisle's design? Because as somebody who collects dolls, not necessarily for their clothing. This doll isn't worth $100. A 5-point articulated Ken usually costs somewhere between $10 to $15. That's with a profit already sitting on it. So $85 of this doll's net worth is supposed to be the clothing and design. Kid Super's design, less the cost of the doll, therefore is a $30 design. Anna Sui, her design, less the cost of the doll, is $20. No matter what I think about their clothing designs or the way their dolls came out, I personally feel like if I were them, I wouldn't let Mattel insult me like that.
If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for playing dolls with me.